Hey, welcome back. LJ here, and today I thought it might be interesting and helpful to get into how I've seen some of the tools of yoga therapy that I like to use and prescribe, how I've seen that really help some of the people I get to work with their migraine headaches. Now, I come to this topic with such compassion because I know how much I hate just a regular headache and how hard it is to function and how terrible it can feel. And I've never even had an official migraine headache, so I can just imagine how terrible and debilitating and awful and even anxiety producing these migraine headaches could become, because even when you don't have one, you might even just start to become afraid that you're going to get one, right? Because it's so awful and terrible and debilitating, between the terrible head pain to nauseousness to all sorts of things that go with it. Where what I find interesting, though, with the common thread through everyone I hear from with the migraine, is the one thing that most migraine people seem to go to when they're in that point of actually feeling like they're in a migraine, is it always seems to be about needing to be by yourself, close your eyes, and like really contain yourself from the external world, and try to just create this like setting of where you're just, all you can do is just like sit or lay and breathe and just try to find relief, right? And even then, often sometimes people don't find relief, right? That's what's so terrible. But that seems to be the thing that most people find they eventually have to do, whether or not they try meds in between or other things. So I've been, I guess, curious about these migraines because it's such a huge issue for some people, and even can become like a lifetime struggle, right? Where it's like this diagnosis, like I get migraines, and now maybe I will for the next 20 years. And I respect that level of like acceptance, and that some people you just have to like maybe work with what seems to be true for you, which that first of all would be one of the things I would say that I've seen a yoga approach help with the people I've gotten to work with who were having these consistent chronic migraine headaches and are no longer having them. And even they feel that they can see how their use of the yoga in various ways, in specific ways, in personalized ways, in gentle ways, in consistent ways, in more like daily ways, how they've gotten out of the cycle maybe of the migraine headache. And, I've even seen some of the writings and suggestions that maybe there's even a psychology with the type of person who might tend to get migraines. Maybe it's someone who tends to be very helpful to everybody else, and maybe it's someone who tends to kind of put themselves last, and maybe it's someone who tends to push themselves really hard and, take breaks less and work really hard and even kind of be willing to push through the pain kind of thing, which in our culture, even there's a lot of support for that, right? To be the hardcore push forward person, even if you're hurting. So I respect, again, the integrity that I think that approach is coming from. So whether or not that describes you, if you're someone who gets migraines and that's why you're watching this, just maybe to keep in mind if that's part of the psychology, if there is a psychology or even a type of person that might tend to get the migraines. But I don't know, that probably might also offend some people to say that. But first of all, a yoga approach would be to first of all honor what's true, where we're getting started. And so if we're in the middle of a migraine, we just got to do whatever we can do to find relief, right? And just honor, like it's almost like you're forced to honor your body and just do whatever the heck it asks to feel better, right? So, but I think that's interesting because the kind of connecting that might actually happen when we're finally willing to actually listen to our body and do what it tells us is kind of what we're going for with yoga. So the thinking is that, first of all, just being more in that honoring place with ourselves, in that loving place. And so even just acknowledging, okay, I'm someone who's gotten migraines for years, and maybe I still will, and even loving ourselves through that. And even if we can see there's a psychology to, if we've been one of those people who, we can see some of why we get our migraines with how we do and don't take care of ourselves, and how much we might push through pain, and how much we might put other people first in ways that don't help us or even them maybe. but to love ourselves through that and even honor if that's been true. But yes, to come at it from a very gentle, loving, honoring place. And some of that's going to mean too that, because I'll hear from a lot of migraine sufferers, that you can start to really know when it's starting. Like you start to have those early indicators, right? Where you're like maybe a day before, you're like, oh, I see the little symptom of what happens often the day before I get a migraine. And I think that's interesting to work with as a yogi as well, as someone who's interested in being more maybe connected with your approach. That's what I mean by yogi. In a way, even seeing that maybe your body's trying to tell you something would be a yoga thing to do with the migraine, and to be willing to listen to the body and look at that, and like being open to even looking into what is going on there, with what's the body trying to tell us. But then also being willing to really just honor if that's true, or if you're in any of those stages. I think another exciting early idea with a yoga approach would be to find relief sooner than later. Would be a very easier first step. I would think that if you're someone who sees those first steps of your migraine, to do what you do that helps you feel better sooner than later would be one first yogi step. I would say that you start to realize that there's not so much of a benefit to pushing through the pain and waiting till you feel really bad to lay down, and that maybe even that's what your migraines are here to kind of teach you, even the value of resting sooner than later, listening to the body more than pushing through. And so that is going to be the first part of a yoga approach that I'm saying is going to help. Now, the other two, at least two more specific ways that I've seen yoga therapy help, in the ways I like to share it and offer it and prescribe for others, is first of all knowing that a lot of headaches are because of posture. A lot of headaches are because most of us have a head that's at least a little rounded forward and a little bit disconnected from the spine. And that sometimes we're even more in those rounded positions from our daily life, because some of what I learned in my postural therapy is the body shapes to whatever position we're putting it in. So if we're, for instance, sitting for long periods, or we've probably all heard about the iPhone neck thing now, that is just part of life for most of us. So to know there's lots of ways that life is helping us get a little more rounded and out of alignment even, that turns out to be a big reason why a lot of people get headaches, is just that alignment piece, the postural piece, and the fact that things even like oxygen aren't getting to the brain as easily, as smoothly, because of the posture. So that can be a big reason why a lot of us can suffer with migraines. So one of the things that I get to help with that, or you get to help yourself with that, is finding a mat practice that's going to realign you more like every day. That's going to straighten out your neck and shoulders, get them back in alignment, get you out of that rounding, so that that's less likely to happen. So that even if you are sitting for hours a day, even if you are doing the iPhone thing, you're doing something to undo it every day and straighten you back out and even strengthen you there, so that also you're helping with staying on top of things like the migraine, in that you're making sure your posture's in good alignment, so that that oxygen can get to your brain and you're less likely to have that be a reason for your migraines. Also, the postural therapy, using those exercises, especially when you get some really specific ones that are just right for you. In addition to helping the alignment and the posture, that's also going to really change your energy flow and your circulation. All your systems are going to function a lot better when you're keeping yourself in good alignment. And if you're someone who goes to a chiropractor, you might already be in touch with that. But a truth here that a lot of us don't know is eventually you need to start doing that for yourself. You can't rely on your chiropractor to get you back in alignment. They're amazing practitioners. I think we should all have a chiropractor in our lives. But I think even most chiropractors would agree with me that eventually you need to start taking care of your own posture, your own alignment. And really it needs to be something more like every day and something specific to you. Because unfortunately some exercises may put you more out of alignment. So that's where, for a lot of us, just going into a basic yoga class may or may not straighten us out. So it may or may not make us feel better. It may or may not give us these alignment benefits. So you might get a lot of other things out of a general yoga class, but you may or may not solve your posture alignment stuff, because most classes today are more geared toward a general, more aligned body, which most of us are not. So that's on my list of things I'm sharing with the yoga world, more how we can be addressing the alignment in a modern way. But that's why, if you can get some specific things, and I'll even post some ways that you can link to some exercises you might even start with to give yourself. That'll be gentle ways to realign your posture so that you can start attending to this. And then to also know that using the exercises is addressing things as energy also. And that's another piece I think we want to look at with something like the migraines. As we remember, as a yoga approach also would encourage us to remember that it's all energy. And so that maybe sometimes things like migraines are when our energy is really, we could say, maybe out of balance, or various ways we haven't been managing our energy. We also are aware that we might pick up other people's energy. There are lots of ways that energy can feel different ways in our bodies. And often our symptoms are indicators of how we're holding the energy, how we're flowing the energy, how we're not. And that's a lot of often what our symptoms are about. So beautifully, with the use of a daily mat practice, you get to manage the energy for your body and help make sure you keep things well and in alignment. And again, your structural alignment's really going to help make sure that your energy flow is smooth. And even things like chakras, if we're into that, chakras are energy centers. So the more aligned we are, the better the energy centers are flowing. And so that's part of what the mat practice can do too, is help align those chakras and align you energetically. But a big piece also that I think helps with the migraines, for what we get from our yoga lifestyle even, is just this more commitment to daily tuning ourselves. Daily tuning into ourselves is a big one. Like more time and energy to be listening within, to check on how we're doing, to see what we might be troubled about or upset about or needing to shift. I think you could start to see how that might help with things like a pattern of migraines, because how often also might those migraines be related to when we're upset about things in life and we're not finding ways to work it out or work with it that are helping us, and we're not taking care of ourselves basically about those things. So the dailiness of a practice, whether it's on the mat or just restful or any things that feel like meditation, is going to help us just tune into ourselves more, and even thus stay more on top of how we're doing. And I think there too, if we started to see through our looking within, through our meditation, even through things like our journaling, I've seen things like journaling be a really helpful part of this too for some of my clients and students, that just getting more in touch with ourselves in general, which is a big part of what yoga is here for, is going to help us start to solve even a migraine thing. That we can start to really get clearer on what may be creating that, and start to be doing something more like daily to solve it. So going after it as a possible posture thing, alignment, going after it as an energy thing and helping yourself manage that more, and also as a just tuning into yourself thing. And if those migraines are at all about you not taking enough time to take care of you or to tune into you, and if those migraines are happening because that's the only way that you will actually go be in a room by yourself and close your eyes and not listen to anything and not watch anything and just be with yourself, I'm a little bit interested in, can we preventatively give ourselves that time so that we don't need a migraine to go finally do it, right? So again, that might sound like a little bit of an offensive approach, especially if we really buy into that it's happening because of something genetic or something from an injury, and maybe it is, and I'm sorry if that's you, but I think even if that was my case, I would still go after it in these ways, which, as you can see, is gentle and loving and yet daily and very solution-based. It's going after some of the potential causes of your migraines. And so this is how you can get yourself off the meds, I believe, and help yourself get out of the cycle, is to start seeing it as daily self-care, ways that you can tune you, realign you, refresh you, renew you. And it doesn't have to be hours a day. It can be just 15, 20 minutes of the right things for you that are safe and are effective and that are going to solve what's causing maybe your migraines on all the levels. That's the bonus, is whether it's psychological stuff and or mental, whether it's emotional stuff, whether it's an energy thing, or whether it is something going on with your body and your structure and the oxygen flow. You're going after it on all levels And you'll know that it's working because it all just feels like relief. That's how you know you've got it right, is when you do just feel better through the practices, after the practices. You may not always feel better during them, and to excitingly look at how you could shift this for yourself. But you need to be open to and believing it's possible. If you've already decided that you're just someone who gets migraines because your mom got migraines, that's not a very yogi approach either. Part of a yoga approach is being really open to what's possible and changeable for you if you're ready to take it on as something that you need to do to you, for you, even if you have amazing practitioners that help. And for sure, if things like massage help you stay in this space and this awareness and this momentum, do it. If things like acupuncture help you make those shifts, address it all's energy, if anything that you've noticed helps, then add it in, and you can call it all part of your yoga if you want, because it's all the things that are going to help you reconnect you. So what if that migraine could be just an invitation for you to reconnect with you? And what if the way to solve it is you reconnecting you on all these various levels more like every day, which actually is going to translate into a lot of greatness for all areas of your life. So what if those migraines could be the reason that you actually finally start doing that, and it could actually help you change your life in so many ways to start doing that. So not only getting you out of the migraines and all the things that might be keeping you from, all the ways that might be affecting your relationships and your life and your choices and your feelings about yourself and your days, to have those migraines lingering or worried that another one might strike. But we need to be open to what's possible and not just expecting that for sure it's coming again next month, because it always does come on, that date, or even things if we really feel like it's because of the weather. Well, that's something that we just have to work with, I guess. I mean, that too may be a belief system, or it may be true for you. So if you really absolutely are sure it's because of weather and pressures and things like that, then how can you honor that for yourself and work with that? And maybe those are the days you need to rest extra or drink extra water, or just play with how can you honor that in a yogi way if you really have decided that's true. But do take a look at what you decide is true, because really whatever you decide is true is going to be true for you. So make sure you're not limiting your potential with what you're deciding is true. And turns out that's a total yoga approach as well. So anyways, thanks for listening. And I'm here for more questions if you have them, and love to help. And I do build people those specific mat practices if you want one, or if you want any more ways to help you in using something like your migraines as a way to get back into your connection and to do it through yoga in all its forms. So anyways,